film review website Twitch Film said The Raid is the best action movie in decades, and they weren't alone. The Raid Redemption is an all-out high-octane action movie about a SWAT team member Rama kicking ass to stay alive in a gang-owned building. Set in Indonesia with an Indonesian cast, has The Raid's writer-director Gareth Evans managed to actually top the big boys? Die Hard meets Ong Bak. I'm sure you've heard that before. Do you agree with that comparison? That is sort of like an analogy, maybe?
Just to be named in the same breath as those two films is just the biggest compliment we could ever hope to have. Like Die Hard's like one of my favorite American action films ever made. It's a classic, and it's something that I watch every year. You know, Ong Bak, meanwhile, yeah, exactly, yeah, it's the best Christmas movie ever made. But Ong Bak, meanwhile, you know, it's a landmark film in martial arts history, without a doubt. Like, you know, you look back at the golden age of Hong Kong action cinema in the 80s and the early 90s, and it was brilliant. And then after Fist of Legend, that was like the last great martial arts film that came out of there for a long time. And then all of a sudden, you're getting pop stars on wires doing, like, you know, with Brill cream in their hair and stuff like that, doing pretty boy flips. And then all of a sudden, my interest in martial arts disappeared. Then suddenly, Ong Bak comes out, and it completely reignited the genre. There is, without a doubt, there is no way that we would be making these films if it wasn't for Tony Jaa, if it wasn't for Ong Bak. That film just completely kickstarted the martial arts genre back into life. So it's such an important film, yeah.
Do you think that The Raid does something different or better than these two films?
No. I mean, like, I would never be arrogant enough to say it. And I don't really believe it either, because for me it's like this. When it comes to The Raid, I don't feel like we've actually been innovative with it. I think what we've done is just take a step back, and instead of trying to like emulate what's currently trendy in terms of the action cinema here in the world, what I decided to do is that go back and see, what do I watch all the time? And what I loved about those films, and what I think stands out from Peckinpah, John Woo, Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung, and all these guys, is a sense of space. It's a sense of understanding geography, and when that camera is just wide enough so you get to see what's going on, that you get to appreciate that what these people are doing, they're real athletes in that field of martial art.
The action this time around, I feel, compared to Marantau, is much more believable, more realistic. But that's a combination of good directing, good acting, and especially good stuntmen. Because if a stuntman can't take a punch, right, then the stuntman is almost as important as anything, because they feel the impact, they act the impact of the punch. So, what was the most difficult scene to shoot, or maybe the most dangerous one?
Yeah, I'm glad you say that about the stunt guys, because the thing is that often gets very overlooked, because like no leading actor in martial arts film is any good if they don't have the reaction, and it goes hand in hand, you know. So Iku could do the most complex kick and the most complex punch. If the reaction from the person taking the hit is terrible, it just looks terrible. But the most difficult shoot had to be the gunplay, the shootout when they drop down through the hole in the floor. Again, nothing to do with the camera work, nothing to do with the actual pyrotechnics or any of the stunts or the action, but it was the location. Because we had a 2-story set, and we needed to film that in a studio which was high enough. But all of the studios with a high enough ceiling were booked out. So we ended up having to use a badminton court in the middle of nowhere. And this badminton court had a nice tin roof, which meant that once it reached noon, the temperature in that place was ridiculously high. And so we were all dropping like flies. It didn't matter how much aircon we pumped into that room, nothing made a difference. And we were just exhausted, and the heat exhaustion was so strong on that one. So, yeah.
Safe to say there's some injuries on set, maybe?
Yeah, unfortunately, like this type of film, it's inevitable. You're going to get injuries and stuff like that. The worst was probably the guy when he gets flipped over the balcony and then his back cracks in half.
Right.
Okay. Now, obviously, we didn't do that for real. You know, but what happened was that scene is actually done in 3 shots. There's 3 separate shots. The first one, it's a big wide, and he gets flipped over and then lands on crash mats. The second one, we put the wall back in. The camera's locked in position. We lift him up 1 meter off the wall and we drop him onto his back so that his legs can come down one side. Then we lift him up again. We drop him onto his bum so his back can come down the other. And then all 3 shots are stitched together in post. Now, the downside is when we did the first version of it and he flipped over, the guys pulling on the wire, they pulled him too hard. So as he flipped over, his body just went straight across. He didn't come down on an angle. He went straight across and then smashed the back of his head against the wall. Then the guys holding the wire, they lost balance, lost control, and the wire slipped. So he started to fall. And then as he started to fall, his trajectory took him away from the crash mats, and he ended up falling 5 meters down onto concrete. We had an ambulance crew standby, and we had like paramedics to check on him. And after 10 minutes, he came to. He woke up again and said, like, okay, let's go again. And we were like, no, you're not going to do the stunt yet. Go to hospital. So he went off, and then 4 days later came back on set. Then he did it then.
So just a mild concussion.
Yeah, mild concussion. Bit of a strain, but mild concussion. But he was okay now.
The Raid was Gareth's response to another film project being put on hold for over a year. He has since tweaked that story for it to be a direct sequel to The Raid. It will be entitled Barandal. Minor spoilers ahead for those who want to find out what is in store for the next film, which begins production in January 2013.
Yeah, there's a little bit more about the brothers in it. We expand a lot more of the characters who kind of played a smaller role in the first one. We get more of the father, more of the wife. Now he has a child as well. So like there's that element of it. And it's all about expanding that universe out. So we're not going to kind of like try to repeat the same formula as the first one. So it's not going to be about that building anymore. Forget the building, it's gone, you know. It's about the people that let Tama have that building. These are the higher ups. This is like the top of the chain. Like, you know, Tama was like if the Raid was like Mean Streets gangsters, now we meet the gangsters who were in The Godfather, that kind of thing, you know. So it's like a much bigger world, much bigger universe, and yeah, it's going to be its own beast entirely. So we got some great action scenes in there as well. We're ramping up big style on it.
Thanks for joining me on the show, man. Appreciate it. Pleasure.
Appreciate it.